Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I'd like to welcome you all here on this lovely day to our regularly scheduled meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Thames Centre. The date is Monday, May 26, 2025, and the time is 4:59 p.m., and I would like to call this meeting to order. So no additions have been made to our agenda. So I'm looking for a motion for someone to move and second the acceptance of the agenda. Councillor Lockie and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Councillor Heeman?
Thank you, Your Worship. I hereby make a declaration of pecuniary interest with respect to agenda item number 1103, item number item title Town of Blue Mountains cider on the council agenda dated May 26, 2025. And the reason for my declaration is that I am employed as a cider maker and manager.
Okay, thank you. And the Deputy Mayor Smyberg.
Great, thank you. I'm declaring an interest in item number 12.1A regarding the Dorchester Lions Club donation. And the reason for the declaration is that I'm an executive member of the Dorchester District Lions Club.
Thank you. All right, so we're on to announcements here. And before we bring in our special guest, tonight, as part of my announcements, I'd like to remind everyone that this coming Wednesday, May the 28th, is designated as Red Shirt Day and is part of the National Accessibility Week. Organized by the Easter Seals Canada, this particular day is devoted to raising awareness about the contributions made by people with disabilities in society, while at the same time raising awareness and in the public sphere. It calls on everyone to commit to improving accessibility and inclusion in all aspects of life, whether it is school, the workplace, or right here in our community. We in Thames Centre have made good strides in accommodating people with disabilities, but as in every case, I'm sure that there's more that can be done. So this coming Wednesday, remember to wear your red shirt and show your support. And I'm going to call on Councillor Lockie to introduce our guest.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I would like to introduce our very special guest, Kalen Glue. Kalen is from Dorchester, and although he uses a wheelchair to get around, that has not slowed him down at all from being a very, very active member of our community. He is passionate about advocating for Canadians with disabilities, especially those that have mobility challenges. He's very involved with Easter Seals and with Camp Wood Eden, and we welcome here to this meeting to help us to recognize Canadians with Disabilities Week.
Is it on? Testing.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. I'm here to represent, well, I'm here to represent Easter Seals, but Canadians with disabilities in general. Basically, in my opinion, it shouldn't be even up for debate whether accessibility it's non-negotiable. It shouldn't even be up for debate. It should be a basic human right. That is just that's the bottom line. But I will say that this council has done more for accessibility than any other council before. And it is frustrating for me sometimes when I go out, not just in the community, but in general, when it's not wheelchair accessible or accessible to any disability, not just people that have physical disabilities. And it's frustrating because we should be able to get in and we should be able to do what everyone else is able to do without any challenges. But unless you live in our shoes, you have no idea what we actually go through unless you go to events that support Canadians with disabilities. So I am here to say that Thames Centre Municipality Council has done a lot with this council more than any other. And I can say Counselor Lockie has done more for me to get my voice out there in the community, because I also went to school with her kids. So we go way back before she even came to politics. And I just want to say that I thank you for what you're doing as a council, but I will say I do think there's more to be done. I don't know if it can be done, but it should be at least looked into. And with that, I'd be happy to take questions if anyone has any.
Thank you, Kaylin. Does anyone from council have any questions of Kaylin while he's here? Deputy Mayor?
Well, I just want to say, Kaylin, well said. We do know that we've got some work to do ahead of us, and if you can help us identify some of those barriers and challenges, then we can certainly, on behalf of the committee, take a look at those and try to make those improvements if we can. But thank you again for being here.
Well, one of the challenges that I find is, and I know this could be a provincial jurisdiction, and if it is, I'm happy to write to MPP Rob Flack. The cookie nook that I would love to get cookies from, but I physically can't get in the building. And that is a huge challenge for me. I haven't even tried to get in there because I know right now I can't. And I want to know if it is a council jurisdiction or is that provincial?
That might be a little bit of a challenge to answer. It's certainly not, I don't believe in a municipal, although I guess our clerk is going to provide you with an answer.
While the building does require, while the building code does require some amendments for accessibility, we can't legally force any building to be. What we do have is community improvement grants that businesses can apply for to help with their accessibility. But yes, it's not our jurisdiction to make them be accessible. However, like I said, we can work with them. We have opportunities for things.
Yeah, and so council can't do much other than what you're already doing, and the rest is all provincial. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, so we are, council's has offered, like I said, the grants, and it's up to the individual business owner to do it. It is a provincial jurisdiction under the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. The building code does have some enforcement with it. Again, it's only as they do renovations to a building. And it's more strict for public buildings that are owned by government than private businesses based on costs.
But anyway, thank you, Kaylin. That's a good suggestion. I'm in and out of that place a lot. I probably should drop you off a box of scones. I've been kind of addicted to them. Anyway, anything else you wanted to say? Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Heeman, I think might have something.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I think it's definitely identified a gap in terms of how the compliance works for accessibility issues. And we know the timeline in which everything was supposed to be phased in as accessible has been and gone, and we still have work to do. But I think as our clerk Nethercott outlined, I think when you look at the new developments, that's where there is a big opportunity for us to implement these changes. And if those are not occurring in new developments, then that's something that we can work on directly with staff and with builders. And hopefully that has been reflected in some of the recent commercial developments in terms of accessible parking spots and whatnot. So. But yeah, the grant opportunity is something that I think is a way to incentivize those gaps in some of our legacy structures.
Thanks, Councillor Heeman. And I want to thank you very much for bringing this to our attention. It's a great opportunity for us not only to celebrate the week that's been announced, but it's also an opportunity for us to learn more as a council for the struggles that people with disabilities of any sort go through in our society. So I really want to thank you very much for coming here this evening. Thank you. Just to continue on with some announcements, today was our first meeting of the community garden and we had our planting day. It went quite quickly, lots of people around, and Jean Davis was actually able to pick up some fresh lettuce to deliver to some of her customers as well. And then the one last thing that I'd like to address this evening is, excuse me, this past Friday evening, 5 young people lost their lives in an awfully tragic incident at the intersection of Cobble Hills Road and the Thorndale Road. The victims were 4 young girls playing softball out here in Dorchester, along with their teacher and coach. They were returning to their homes in Walkerton. There are no words to express our sadness at such a loss. At this point in the investigation, there are few details. Probably later this week, Middlesex County OPP will have had a chance to complete their investigation into what really happened. As details become available, more information will be available as well. We've been in touch with the Mayor of Walkerton to express our sympathies for this terrible loss, and municipal flags will be lowered to half-mast until the end of the week to show respect for all those affected by this tragedy. To our volunteer firefighters, we thank you for your service and offer you our support during this time. Victim Services of Middlesex London will be at the Thorndale Lions Community Centre on Wednesday, May the 28th from 6 until 8 p.m. to provide support to the community on a drop-in basis. And in the meantime, I'd like to say to everyone in this room and anyone who might be listening that do take care on our roads and highways. There are far too many of these accidents that are happening. Thank you all. I think the next item on our agenda then is the Great Lakes Canadians and Dorchester minor ball. So Adam Stern and Chris Robinson, anytime you're ready. Turn your light on.
Good afternoon. It's fitting that we're in here talking about baseball and probably the first day baseball weather that we've had in a long time. So we deserve it. But we're just following up from last year. We were able to come and speak with you all, and we appreciated that. And it was mentioned and suggested that we potentially give an annual update. We have that with a little bit of an add-on this year. But a lot of the information that we put in the slideshow is very I want to keep it short and sweet just for the sake of a long meeting that you have, but a lot of it is just review from last year. I can just start. I guess this is my prop. Okay, yeah, we'll go next slide. We can just move through this pretty quickly. As I said, a lot of review. Last year's numbers in terms of games played, in terms of visitors. Next slide, please. And one more. One more. So again, we were up over around 600 games, and this is just at the outdoor recreation center at the two big fields, which are used from our 14U players and up. Doesn't capture the community fields that we also have here in town and in Thorndale. But we are at max capacity. As you can see, we're hosting major events, and things are moving pretty well out there. Next slide, please. Our main user groups remain the same because of full capacity. We have, 6 major user groups. Dorchester Minor Baseball, obviously being one of them. The Great Lake Canadians, which Adam and I run. The Canadian Premier Baseball League, which is the league that the Great Lake Canadians plays in. Obviously, for Canada to compare anything to hockey would be a mistake, but our level of play at the CPBL would be the equivalent of the OHL for amateur hockey players. We also have partnered again this year with the Toronto Blue Jays Academy. We just finished a tryout process for them along with our CPBL groups where we saw over 700 kids come to the outdoor recreation center over the course of 4 days in May. Where they try out for the big Future Showcase, which is a big event the Toronto Blue Jays run, and then also the All-Star Game for the Canadian Premier Baseball League. Perfect Game, we're still a major sponsor. Perfect Game's the biggest tournament showcase provider internationally. So we're the arm, so to speak, of the of Perfect Game, which we can get. Well, I'll mention a specific event that we have coming up, but just to give you a little bit of an understanding of Perfect Game is between all their social media outlets, they have over 1 million followers. So when they're posting stuff and posting videos and scores from Royal Field, we're getting a lot of exposure that way too across the world. So pretty cool. Just to quickly go through the major events, we are very similar events. I just want to bring up a couple just for the sake of time. We again hosted, as I mentioned, that 700 kids through the facility for our showcase weekend in the Toronto Blue Jays Academy. We added this year, we were very fortunate last year to partner with Perfect Game up here. I think this is the 3rd year actually. This year, next week, June 3rd to 9th or 3rd to 8th, we'll be hosting basically a Memorial Cup for baseball. It will be the first time probably ever that we've had a best on best type championship. So that will be hosted by Perfect Game out at Royal Field and the Field of Dreams, and that'll be next week. We'll have teams coming from British Columbia, Quebec, Alberta, and then across Ontario to come and compete to ultimately, I guess, be named the national champion. So that'll be a pretty interesting and high exposure event. We were very fortunate last year, and we are again this year locally to host. We hosted an OBA championship last year, one out at the Field of Dreams and at Royal Field, and one in town here. We had a 2nd place finish out at Royal Dreams in a very heartbreaking fashion for Dorchester Minor Baseball. And we were very fortunate that our 12U team last year won the Ontario championship here at home on Diamond 3. So that was a pretty cool experience for those kids. This year we are hosting, our 10U team is hosting an Ontario championship, and our 15U team is also hosting Ontario championship at Royal Field. So just to move forward quickly, we hold our 8 major events. That's where we're pretty much capped at with the amount of traffic and the field usage. I recycled. We can go next slide, please. In the next one, I recycled this from last year just to show the numbers. This was put together by Tourism London of one of our major events to show the economic impact of what a weekend of a tournament shows. And with us timesing that by 8 major events, along with what goes on the non-major event weekends, we can safely say that we believe the impact in the community is over $1.5 million. So we're pretty fortunate to have people coming in. I tell the story the other day, we had some support from Dino from Fat Olive and Subway, and I went into Subway when we were hosting the major event last week, and I was standing there in line with about 8 other baseball players. So it looks like we're doing our job, bringing people to some of the local businesses. And I know Sterny back there, he frequents TC Brewing Company and the Cookie Nook there for his coffee. So, and just to move forward, again, a lot of the quotes and some of the stuff we've asked for from local can be there for your reference, and Jen Coughlin from Minor Baseball as well. Again, we host, just to go kind of look into the future now, we'll get to the ask part, I guess. And we do host over 5,000 players annually between Dorchester Minor Baseball, Great Lake Canadian, CPBL, all the users. where we're going right now in Dorchester minor baseball, I guess this is a good problem to have. This year was the first year we actually had to cap our registration, so we ended up having to turn players away. Usually we find with the success of the Blue Jays, that baseball is successful based on them, so puts a little pressure on the Jays, but we are at our max capacity for minor baseball. And a really good problem to have is the majority of those players are under the age of 14, 15. So we're finding that we're growing at the right ages and being very successful in promoting baseball. Next slide, please. So again, with our full capacity, I do all the scheduling for minor baseball. I do the scheduling with the Great Lake team as well. Again, a good problem to have, but a tough problem to have is if we look even on our local fields here at the arena, we don't have an open spot available during the week from Monday to Friday. And also most weekends are now booked between slow pitch and our minor baseball. So again, it's a good problem to have where they're filling the venue and we're filling the facilities. But the reality is, just like across the country, there's a shortage in baseball fields. So it kind of brings us to our next slide is, or sorry, we'll go one more. So we proposed this last year with the facility expansion. We'd like to come today. We did end up hiring an architect. We ended up hiring the architect that did the initial plans for Royal Field and had him put a quote together for what it could cost for us to build another baseball field out at the York. Our plan would be to make it a bantam-sized field, which for clarity's sake would be for those players 14 and under, whereas Royal Field and the Field of Dreams would be basically 14 and over. Those are the usages. Within that age group, 275 approximately of our 350 kids within the Dorchester minor baseball would be able to access a field that size just based on the usage. And then within the Great Lake Canadians, 40% of our players in our teams would be able to access that. So with that $1.8 million, I have the handouts here of the quote. I can either hand it to you now or I can send it to Janet to be circulated or whatever's easiest. And with it, we're looking in a very simple sense is to see what, we believe in a partnership in the past with what we've done with Royal Field. We believe in that, and we'd ultimately just like to get to the point where we're hopefully could get that into budget, and then it could be communicated with us in terms of what we would need to do on our end between Dorchester Minor Baseball, the Great Lake Canadians, Canadian Premier, all the user groups to make a potential new field a reality out there. We had another couple things come up that's put an exclamation mark or really drawn to that is we had a Baseball Canada came to us within a week ago or within the last couple of weeks to ask us to host a major event of theirs, and we unfortunately had to turn them down just based on our capacity with minor baseball and the other users. So that's where we're at. I mean, that would be our proposal. If we look at the proposed facility expansion, our initial, if we can go back just that one slide, our initial thought of phase one being kind of the next field. This quote believes that moving it down to kind of where phase 4 is there would be probably better in terms of keeping the cost down and having it access to the irrigation ponds there. So with that, as I said, the stress for us is to create a partnership again, like we have with Royal Field, and it hopes, we're not coming asking for the whole thing, and we're more than willing, and we believe hopefully we've proven that in past partnerships that we'd be more than happy to kind of roll up our sleeves and work with the township to make this a reality.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions or comments from council? Councillor Crockett?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chris, for coming in. It's great to see the numbers and the usage of the fields. I know every time I go past any of our fields, they seem to be full with whatever type of baseball seems to be being played by that age group at that time. Your presentation today aligns well as we lead into budget season this summer. So it'll be interesting to see what your ask looks like in compared to what our recreation budget looks like for the upcoming year. And perhaps there can be some future considerations on how we can partner on this in alignment with our recreation master plan as well. So I know there's a lot of minor sports kind of across all sports now, but it's good to see the activities happening here in the community. So thanks for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Councillor Lockie.
Yeah, through your worship. So just a question, Chris, regarding, you had mentioned that there are, that we're turning away people that want to register for baseball. So I guess there's kind of two questions. Do we take in any players from outside of our municipality? And do we know how many kids are turned down that want to play baseball but can't because of capacity?
Yeah, our main actually capacity limit is at the younger ages. Actually, Devin Brown, without throwing a conflict of interest in, he's our 6U coach, and so they're actually having to use the high school fields for a couple reasons. One, there's a little bit of extra space over there, so when 6U baseball is pretty much like herding cats at times. So he's opted for a little bit more space. So we've had to go outside that a little bit. When we turn players away, it's usually at the older levels in hopes that they can find somewhere else. But this year was the first year where we had to cap sizes at our younger groups just by the space that we use. So are we bringing in players from outside within minor baseball? No, we stay close. There are players that in some levels, like when we've run a select team, which is rep teams, have to be within our center, and then select teams can be outside our center. So at times, if people get cut from their rep teams and local, they can come play in Dorchester as a select team. So, but that doesn't necessarily take spots away from our local kids, just because the house league option is there as well.
Yeah. So do you have like a rough estimate on how many people had to go find baseball elsewhere?
I'd be able to find that from Jen that's our registrar through minor baseball. It was, as I said, it was the younger levels where it was just like, okay, like we don't want to put this pressure on this coaching staff to be chasing these guys around with bats swinging around.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Deputy Mayor Smybert.
Thanks, Chris, for your presentation. Sometimes as a municipality, our hands are kind of tied in terms of getting funding for projects like this. Do you have access to funding dollars through other organizations that you're aware of?
Yeah, right now we actually have in the budget from our initial project out there, Royal Field. There's annual, obviously with sponsorships and partnerships that we've had. There's a budget there. Outside of that, we also have, like, it would be on us to go find the partnership, find the sponsorship. We've ultimately started that process in a way where we've had people interested, whether it be through minor baseball, whether it be through our connections within the baseball community and the business community. So we would ultimately need confirmation of, yes, we could kind of work towards a number, but we've fairly confident from what we've done in the past with Royal and some of the other opportunities that we would have through some of those user groups, we could gather some money for sure.
Councillor Heeman.
I think it's a very timely proposal, and we had some discussions about shovel-ready projects in line with potential grant opportunities. And my son has registered for blast ball this summer, and I can only imagine what's going to happen when all those COVID babies want to play baseball. Like that's in the pipeline. That's maybe 5 years down the road, maybe less. And I can see there definitely being a demand for this, aside from all of the planned housing development whenever that decides to show up again. So I think like it's excellent to have this as a plan. And I know last time we talked, I mentioned the 25% number. I think that's something that in my time has roughly been a good guiding principle, but I'd like to see us get a little bit closer in terms of lining up your plans with our staff's procurement and things like that. And there is a phased approach, and I hope we can find a way to enact that partnership in the near future.
Thank you, Councillor Heeman. Anyone else? Just a high level question, Chris. Any expansions that you make for the field, are you talking AstroTurf again, or are you doing a natural field?
We would highly recommend the AstroTurf for the sake of maintenance.
Oh.
It extends the season. One thing I kind of I didn't get into was our minor ball teams were using Royal Field this year in April. A lot of the younger ones, obviously, they don't play there. It's too big, but we were fortunate to get them out. And I mean, April's weather wasn't great, so we had some 8-year-olds running around out there that didn't want to be out playing baseball. So we might be taking the love out of it at that point. But it does extend the season. It extends the season. We've had countless. I mean, this weekend a perfect example. Last weekend again, where the backfield there, the natural surface was toast for a weekend, and we were still able to play. So I think that for the sake of the cost difference between the AstroTurf versus a natural, it makes the most sense just to use AstroTurf and be able to use it all year round.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. If there are no other questions then from council, and I'm not seeing any at the moment, a mover and a seconder that the presentation by C. Robinson regarding Great Lakes Canadians and Dorchester minor baseball be received for information. Councillor Crockett and seconded by Councillor Lockie. All in favor? Thank you. Thanks, Chris and Ann, for coming in here tonight and presenting
Thanks so much.
this. Thank you. All right, we're going to call on Travis Pitt to with a drainage improvement. It's item number 7.1 on your agenda. Go ahead.
Good evening, Council. The request for improvement before you is a request from a drain that was originally constructed in 1975, known as the major drain. The drain itself is in good repair. However, it is undersized to today's standards. As well, the grades on a lot of the farm properties along this drain are quite steep, and they do suffer some severe erosion during high rain events, which they would like to have acknowledged as a part of this project. Appointing an engineer to identify the problem areas and the report necessary would help these landowners greatly. And I'll stop there to answer any questions.
Thank you, Travis. Any questions from the members of council? Okay. In that particular case, a mover and a seconder that report number PWDR 006-25 of the Drainage Superintendent dated May 26, 25, concerning a request received for drainage improvements be received for information, and that the request for improvement submitted under Section 78 of the Drainage Act RSO 1990 for new drainage works in relation to the property located inside Concession 3 East, Part Lot 9, RP, Registered Plan, 33R 9298, Part 1, former Township of West Missouri, be received and adopted, and that Mr. S. Brickman of Headway Engineering be appointed as the engineer to investigate and prepare the necessary drainage report. A mover and seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? All right, that carries. Thanks, Travis. So at this point, a mover and a seconder that council adjourn its regular meeting at 5:33 p.m. and move into public meetings pursuant to the Planning Act to consider applications listed on the May 26, 2025 regular council agenda. And I see that the first one is here, consent application B4-25, Littlewood Farms Limited. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Emily, I'm going to have to back up here. A mover and a seconder, sorry. Deputy Mayor Smybert and Councillor Heeman. That's why we have a clerk. All in favor? Thank you. That carries. All right. So now, consent application B4-25, Little Woods Farms Limited, applicant Emily Woods is the agent, and the property address is 20664 Heritage Road. And Erin, you're presenting.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. So this application, the purpose and effect of which is to sever a parcel of land to facilitate the disposal of a resident surplus to a farming operation as a result of farm consolidation. The lands proposed to be conveyed would have a frontage of approximately 61 meters along Heritage Road in an area of approximately 1.17 hectares to facilitate the disposal of a residence. The lands would contain the single detached dwelling, the detached garage, as well as the storage shed. The applicant is proposing to remove the eastern portions of the storage shed as they do cross over the proposed rear lot line. The property the farm portion of the property is primarily used for the cultivation of field crops, and the lands to be retained would be approximately 97.75 hectares in size. The property itself is located at the corner of Heritage Road and on the north side of Evelyn Drive. The proposed severance was originally brought forward to the council and was approved, I believe, in July of 2022. However, most of the conditions have been satisfied. However, not all of them were by the 2-year timeline. So it has lapsed and the applicant was required to resubmit the application. The provincial policy planning statement, rather, the county official plan and the local official plan all permit this type of lot creation. The house is of a habitable standard and it's met the 10-year timeline requirement. The parcel is kept to the minimum size required to accommodate the residential use, private servicing, and the accessory building. And consolidation has also been achieved through the farming operation. The lot to be severed would comply with the undersized lot provisions of the agricultural zone. Also, the farmland itself still has a house on it, so a rezoning is not required, as that in its own nature would prevent a future residence from being built. So in all, I'm satisfied that the conditions outlined in the official plan and the PPS have been met. The application was circulated as per the requirements of the Planning Act, and I've received a few comments that were just sort of fed into the conditions of approval, and nothing to note from the public as well. So my recommendation this evening is approval subject to the 9 conditions that are outlined in the report. And I will note that those are the same conditions that were from the previous application as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone online or anyone wanting to?
Yes, Your Worship. We've got the applicant Carly Woods online.
Okay. Whenever she's ready.
Hi.
Hi, Carly, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't think I have anything to add. I believe it was covered in the application. And it was my sister as well who has been working alongside council to move this forward. But yeah, I know it's the second time coming around, but we've had some unfortunate circumstances in the past year and a bit. So we're hoping to move this along and definitely will help out our situation with the farm. So we appreciate your time in hearing this matter.
Thank you, Carly. Any questions then from the members of council? Okay, seeing none. Councillor Heeman, did you have a question?
No, I'd like to move the recommended motion
All right,
for
then.
approval.
So we have a motion to move it from Councillor Heeman, a seconder. Councillor Smybert, all in favor? Okay. That carries. Thanks very much, Emily. Okay, we're moving on to item number 8.2, the consent application B5-25, Guildwood Farms, Inc. as the applicant. Property address is 18126 Whiten Drive in Lindsay Nurin to present. Go ahead, Lindsay, whenever you're ready.
Happy Monday, everybody. I'm here to present file number B5-25 submitted by Guildwood Farms, Inc., owned by Matt Langford, for the lands located at 18126 Whiten Drive in the geographic township of West Missouri. The purpose of this application is to facilitate the severance of a dwelling that is surplus to the needs of a farming operation. The applicant has accurately demonstrated that they have a separate home from this farm, several acres of farmland, and the property in question is not needed for the farm operations to continue. The subject property in total is about 78 acres in size, with frontage on both Whiten Drive and Cobble Hills Road. It contains a single detached dwelling that has been there for more than 10 years and has been used by the family members throughout the years. It is serviced by a private well and septic system. It contains a few agricultural buildings, as well as crop cultivation, itself totaling 77 acres. The proposal is to sever approximately 1 acre containing the existing house and the garage. The retained farmland will continue to be used for agricultural purposes, with the agricultural buildings to the southern portion of the house being accessed by the existing driveway on Whiten Road. This application is consistent with the PPS, maintains conformity with both official plans and our zoning bylaw. And as required by policy, the retained farmland will be rezoned to prohibit residential uses, helping to preserve our agricultural land and prevent future fragmentation. As I mentioned, this will be a future application. Staff recommend approval of this application subject to 10 standard conditions, which include but are not limited to, like I said, the rezoning of those agricultural lands, confirmation that structures and services are appropriately located and compliant, and a new municipal address for the farmland and registration of an R plan. These conditions ensure the severance is carried out in an orderly and legally compliant manner. The application was circulated to all relevant agencies and parties, and no objections or concerns were received from agencies or the public. Staff recommend that consent application B05-25 for Guildwood Farms, Inc. be approved, subject to the conditions outlined in my report. And this recommendation supports the municipality's goals of smart planning and preserving ag lands while allowing surplus farm dwellings to be responsibly severed. Thanks.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant in the room wishing to make any comments? Sarah?
Yes, Your Worship, the applicant's online, Matt Langford. I'll bring him in.
Thank you.
Good
Hello,
evening.
Matt. Can see you. Yep, there you go.
Not a lot to comment other than, thanks for your consideration. And it is surplus to our agricultural operations. I think the proposal does a good job of, it has a natural separation currently with trees along the property line, and the agricultural operation has a separate driveway. So other than that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them while I'm here.
Thanks very much. Is there anyone online who wishes, and no one here in the chambers who wishes to comment on this? Okay. All right. So then I'll turn it over to questions from council if they have any. None? Okay, then. There being no further discussion, the public meeting is now closed. Do I have a mover for the recommended motion to approve consent application B525, subject to the 10 conditions as appended to the agenda? Councillor Heeman and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? That motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Langford. Okay, then the next one on our list is item 8.3, consent application B6-25 and zoning bylaw amendment application Z1025, Morningstar Farms Limited as the applicant. Property address is 17043 Plover Mills Road, otherwise known as County Road 16. Go ahead, Alana, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. So the purpose and effect of the consent application is another surplus farm dwelling severance. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the balance of the property to prohibit any future residential use consistent with provincial and local planning policy. So the property is a 94-acre lot situated on the south side of Plover Mills Road and on the west side of Fairview Road. And the farm contains a single detached dwelling serviced by a private well and septic system, and it also contains a drive shed. So all other farm buildings have been removed with only the foundations remaining. And the applicants have advised they intend to remove the foundations to create additional workable land. So the lands to be severed would have a frontage of approximately 47 meters along Plover Mills Road and an area of approximately 1.56 acres, and would contain the single detached dwelling and the drive shed. And the lands to be retained would contain the farmland and would have a broken frontage, of approximately 605 meters along Plover Mills Road and an area of approximately 90 acres. So the applicants are also proposing to rezone the lands to be retained, being the farmland. So the provincial planning statement, the County Middlesex official plan, and Thames Center's official plan generally permit lot creation in agricultural areas for a dwelling surplus to a farming operation as a result of farm consolidation, subject to criteria. And the lands to be severed, which would contain a single detached dwelling and drive shed, would comply with the undersized lot provisions of the agricultural A zone, and also to prohibit any future residential uses consistent with provincial and local policy. They are requesting that the rezoning for the farmland, which is appropriate and represents good land use planning. So staff is of the opinion that the surplus farm dwelling severance criteria has been met or is capable of being met through the conditions of consent. And overall, the applications are consistent with provincial policy and in conformity with both the county and Thames Center official plans. So in regards to comments received as part of notice circulation, comments were received from the county engineer, the director of public works, the drainage superintendent, and the chief building official. And these comments are included within the report. And after the writing of the report, comments were received from the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, who advised no objections. And no public comments have been received to date. So staff recommend that application for consent B6-25 be approved subject to the 12 conditions noted in the report for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you. Oh, and that the zoning bylaw amendment be approved. Thanks.
Thank you, Ilana. Is the applicant in the room and wishing to comment? No. Okay. Nothing to add? Okay, then. Thank you. Okay. So anyone online or here?
There's no one
to
online,
ask
Your
questions?
Worship.
Okay, then we'll move on to any questions or comments that council might have. All right, I'm seeing none then. So then if there's no further discussion, the public meeting is now closed. We have two decisions tonight, council. On the first decision, mover and a seconder to approve the consent application B6-25, subject to the 12 conditions as appended to the agenda. Councillor Heeman and Deputy Mayor Smyberg, all in favor? Thank you. And then the second decision in this application, a mover and a seconder to approve the zoning bylaw amendment Z1225 as appended to the agenda, and that the implementing bylaw be considered. A mover and a seconder, Councillor Lockie and Councillor Crockett, all in favor? That passes. Thank you. Thanks very much for your attendance. 8.4 on your agenda is the zoning bylaw amendment application Z11-25, Dwayne Heemstra and Brian Heemstra as the applicants, and the property address is 21064 Rebecca Road. Lindsay, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, everyone. I'm here today to present a report for an application for a temporary use zoning bylaw amendment for the property known as 21064 Rebecca Road in Thorndale, filed by the owner. The applicant is requesting a temporary use zoning bylaw amendment to permit 2 single detached dwellings on the property for a period not to exceed 3 years. This would allow the owner to remain in the existing house while constructing a new dwelling on the property. The property is located on the east side of Rebecca Road, just south of Whiten Drive and directly adjacent to the CN Railway. It's zoned agriculture and which currently permits 1 single dwelling as a principal use. The proposed new home will comply completely with all zoning provisions and will be located more than 30 meters away from the rail line, consistent with CN's recommended setbacks. The Thames Center official plan allows for temporary uses of up to 3 years, provided that certain criteria are met. This application clearly proposes a temporary use, does not introduce adverse impacts, is compatible with surrounding uses, has adequate servicing, and will not create traffic or parking issues. This proposal also conforms to the County of Middlesex official plan and is consistent with the PPS. To ensure compliance, a temporary use agreement has been drafted and signed. The agreement requires the removal of the existing dwelling within 6 months of occupancy of the new house or upon expiry of the bylaw, which is that 3-year timeline, whichever comes first. A $5,000 security deposit will be collected at the time of building permit issuance. The application was circulated in accordance with Planning Act regulations for commenting. Public Works, Drainage, and our CBO provided no comments or objections. CN provided no concerns with standard recommendations, including maintaining that 30-meter setback, as well as design recommendations and registration of a warning clause and environmental easement on title. And these can all be implemented through the building permit stage. So staff recommend that council approve the temporary use zoning bylaw for a period not exceeding 3 years to permit 2 single detached dwellings on the property, and that the accompanying temporary use agreement, which has been reviewed and signed by the proponent, be considered and approved as included in the bylaw portion of this agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Anyone either in the room or online to speak to this issue? Any additional comments? No? No one?
No one online, Your Worship.
Okay. Excuse me, does that apply the same to the public? Excuse me. All right, I'll ask council if they have any questions about this. Okay. Councillor Heeman?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. And then when we've discussed reverse ARUs, this is the mechanism that I think could assist with the establishment of a reverse ARU policy in future. So just a general comment that this process could have broader applications. But I think I'm in support of this particular instance.
So are you making the motion? All right. Okay. Councillor Crockett is seconding it. All in favor? Okay, that carries. So thank you, Lindsay. Okay, we'll move on to 8.5, official plan amendment application 01-25 and zoning bylaw amendment application Z825 CBM aggregates a division of St. Mary's Cement Inc., care of Stephen May as the applicant, and MHBC Planning, care of Neil DeRuiter, I hope I pronounced that right, agent at the property address 20115 Purple Hill Road. Go ahead, Alana.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. So the purpose and effect of the subject applications is to redesignate a portion of the property from the extractive industrial designation to the agricultural designation, and also to rezone a portion from the extractive industrial M3 zone to the agricultural A zone to revert the lands back to agricultural uses. including allowing for a single detached dwelling, since the gravel pits that were once operating from the subject lands have now ceased operations, and the balance of the lands being designated protection area and zoned environmental protection are to remain unchanged. So the subject property is a 21-acre vacant lot situated on the west side of Purple Hill Road, north of Dundas Street and abutting the CP Railway. And the lands were once used as active aggregate operations, but have now ceased operations. And the lands contain a lake that was created as a result of aggregate extraction below the water table. And I would like to note the aerial images used for our location map are a bit out of date. So we have a more accurate, more up-to-date map that was provided as part of the application submission to show the extent of the lake, which extends onto the neighboring property to the north. So apart from the lake, there is a segment of land with approximately 199 meters of frontage and an area of approximately 3.9 acres in size. So the applicants are seeking to redesignate and rezone the two former gravel pits to revert the lands back to an agricultural designation and to allow for the permitted uses under the agricultural A zone, which, as mentioned, includes a single detached dwelling, since site rehabilitation has occurred and the aggregate licenses under the Aggregate Resources Act have been surrendered. No buildings or structures are proposed as part of the subject applications, so staff would like to note, should the lands be redesignated to the agricultural designation and rezoned to the agricultural zone, any proposed buildings or structures must comply with the regulations of the zoning bylaw. So the provincial planning statement indicates rehabilitation shall be required to accommodate subsequent land uses once an aggregate operation has ceased. And within prime agricultural areas, it is noted that aggregate extraction sites are permitted as an interim use and are to be rehabilitated back to an agricultural condition. The county's official plan echoes the PPS and indicates aggregate extraction in prime agricultural areas is permitted as an interim use. And both the county and Thames Center official plans note that aggregate extraction sites are to be rehabilitated back to an agricultural condition, other than when there is substantial quantity of mineral aggregate resources below the water table, which warrants extraction, and that agricultural rehabilitation in remaining areas is maximized. So staff is of the opinion that the request to redesignate the lands from extractive industrial to agricultural is consistent with provincial policy and conforms to the county and local official plan, as the portion of lands once used as an aggregate extraction operation has now been rehabilitated, and the segment of remaining area, although undersized, could accommodate a range of uses that could be established on the subject property, such as farm buildings, a market garden, a single detached dwelling, etc. So as part of staff's evaluation, the criteria for official plan amendments was assessed using the application submission materials. And the criteria for zoning bylaw amendment applications was also assessed. And from the evaluation, staff is of the opinion that the subject applications are consistent with provincial policy and conforms to both the county and Thames Center official plans. So from the circulation of the public meeting notice, agency comments were received from the county engineer, the director of public works, and the drainage superintendent, and these comments are included within the report. Comments were also received from the chief billing official, who advised no comments, and then after the writing of the report, comments were received from the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, who advised no objections. No public comments have been received to date. So staff recommend that application for official plan amendment 01-25 be adopted, and that the implementing bylaw be considered as included in the bylaw portion of the agenda, and that the zoning bylaw amendment application be approved in principle, and that the implementing bylaw be brought forward at a future council meeting for consideration once the official plan amendment is approved by the County of Middlesex. Thank you.
Thanks, Alana. So then, once again, is the applicant in the room and wishing to make any comments? Certainly, go right ahead. If you'd like to step up to the microphone here and turn it on, you should be able to see a little red circle at the top once you've got it on. Yep, and just go ahead whenever you're ready.
For introductions, my name is Yara Mahdi, and I'm a planner with MHBC Planning. I'm here with Neil DeRuyter and our client Steve May from CBM Aggregates. We wanted to provide everyone with some background regarding the applications for the lands where the former Douglas and McLaughlin sand and gravel pits operated. Next slide, please. To begin, the subject lands are comprised of 2 land parcels which have merged in title. They are legally described as part east half of lots 1 and 2 on concession 5 and are approximately 8.6 hectares in size, with 200 meters of frontage onto Purple Hill Road. The lands are located within a primarily agriculture and rural area of the municipality and are adjacent to the Canadian Pacific Railway. They are surrounded by surrendered and existing pit licenses and rural residential uses. Next slide, please. As mentioned, the 2 licenses formerly operated on the subject lands until 2023, with final rehabilitation activities completed in the spring and summer of 2024. So the Ministry of Natural Resources inspected the sites in August and accepted the 2 license surrenders in October of 2024. Next slide, please. Here are just a few images of the rehabilitated condition of the former pits, where a pond and natural vegetation are seen. The site was awarded with the 2024 Judges' Choice Award for Rehabilitation by the Ontario Stone and Sand and Gravel Association. So next slide, please. Yeah. To ensure the rehabilitated condition of the subject lands is appropriately reflected and identified in the official plan, our client is applying for an official plan amendment to redesignate the extractive industrial area of the lands to the agriculture designation. Similarly, the zoning bylaw amendment is also requested to rezone the portion of the subject lands from the extractive industrial M3 zone to the agricultural A zone. Next slide. So we have reviewed the staff report and provide a summary here of the comments received regarding the application. So no comments were received from the circulated disciplines or the public. And the Upper Thames Center Conservation Authority indicated that they had no objections to the application. Thank you. In conclusion, CPM supports staff recommendation for approval of the subject applications. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you. Okay, so, and there are no questions or comments from the public, are there? Sarah?
There's no one online, your worship.
And no one in the chambers. So in that case, then, we will close this portion of the public meeting. Wait a minute, I think I missed something. Questions from council? Yes. Any questions? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Crockett.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your presentation. I don't really have a question. I just want to say I think it's always welcomed when we're able to bring agriculture lands back into our OP. And then I guess just congratulations. I think it shows that best practices were followed to make this transition happen so seamlessly. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Crockett. Any other questions or comments from council? Okay. If there are none, then the public meeting is now closed. A mover and a seconder to adopt the official plan amendment 0125 as appended to the agenda and to consider the implementing bylaw as included in the bylaw portion of the agenda, as well as to approve the zoning bylaw amendment Z9-25 in principle as appended to the agenda, and have the implementing bylaw be brought forward at a future date. Council meeting once the OP amendment is approved by the county. A mover and a seconder, Councillor Lockie and Councillor Crockett. All in favor? That carries. Thanks very much. All right, at this point, then 8.6 is to close the public meeting. The mover and the seconder that at 6:03 p.m. Deputy Mayor Smybert and Councillor Lockie. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. All right, Committee of Adjustments, item number 9 on your agenda, minor variance application A3-25, Megan Williamson as the applicant and Tom Johnson as the agent. Property address is 216 Main Street in Thorndale. Go ahead, Alana.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. So the purpose and effect of this application is a request to allow the expansion of a legal nonconforming use, being a mobile home, to allow the applicants to replace the existing mobile home with a larger model, having a setback of 1 meter from an interior side lot line within the site-specific residential first density R11 zone, which is otherwise not permitted. So the subject property is a 0.18 acre residential lot situated on the north side of Main Street, west of Agnes Street in the village of Thorndale. And the lands contain an existing mobile home, which was placed on the lands in 1974, having a floor area of 85 square meters and is serviced by municipal piped water and sanitary sewers. So the applicant is proposing to replace the existing mobile home with a new larger model with a floor area of 161 square meters to be situated in generally the same location as the existing mobile home. And the existing mobile home is approximately 0.7 meters from the easterly lot line, whereas the replacement mobile home would be located at least 1 meter from that lot line. And in the R1 zone, a building or structure must have a minimum setback of at least 2 meters. Therefore, a variance for interior side yard setback has been included in the subject application. And the proposed 1 meter setback was not indicated in the notice, although staff would like to know it was requested as part of the application submission. So the official plan speaks to several requirements that the Committee of Adjustment should be satisfied with or believe can be capable of being met. So additionally, the official plan requires that the expansion of a legal nonconforming use meet the 4 tests of a minor variance under the Planning Act. So the proposed larger replacement mobile home is not anticipated to significantly worsen the existing situation created by the existing mobile home. This is because the new use will remain residential in nature. The replacement mobile home will be located generally in the same area as the existing mobile home, and the replacement mobile home will continue to reflect the character of the surrounding area, particularly given the presence of a mobile home park directly across Main Street to the south. Additionally, the proposed mobile home will be connected to full municipal services. So staff is of the opinion that the requirements for official plan amendments and the 4 tests of a minor variance have been met. It is important to note that based on comments received from the chief building official, staff is of the opinion that it would be appropriate to require a minimum side yard setback of 1.2 meters from the proposed replacement mobile home for the reasons provided by the chief building official, whereas the applicant has proposed a minimum side yard setback of 1 meter. Staff has since spoken to the agent who advised there's no concern with a minimum side yard setback of 1.2 meters. So with regard to comments received, agency comments were received from the county engineer, the director of public works, the drainage superintendent, and the chief building official. And these comments are included within the report. And after the writing of the report, comments were received from the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, who advised no objections, and no public comments have been received to date. So staff recommend that application for minor variance A3-2025 to permit the expansion of a legal nonconforming use being a mobile home having an area of 161 square meters and an interior side yard setback of 1.2 meters be approved for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thanks, Alana. Is the agent or the applicant in the room and wishing to comment? No comments? Okay, thank you. Any public questions?
There's no one online, Your Worship.
Okay. So any questions from the committee members? None at all? Okay, there being no further discussion, the public hearing is now closed. And do I have a mover to approve the minor variance A325 as appended to the agenda? Councillor Heeman, and it's seconded by Deputy Mayor Smyber. All in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. So a motion to adjourn the Committee of Adjustment, Councillor Heeman and Deputy Mayor Smyber. And that time is 6:08 PM. Council will reconvene its regular meeting. So going on to item number 10, approval of the previous minutes, that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on May 12th, 2025 be approved as circulated. Deputy Mayor Smyber and Councillor Heeman, all in favor? That carries. Consent items. Items listed under the consent agenda are received for information in one motion. Council members may request that one or more items be separated for further action. And I have note of 11.3 pecuniary interest from Councillor Heeman. A mover and a seconder or a comment? Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Crockett.
Thank you, Mayor. So just in regards to 11.1, I just wanted to highlight my appreciation that the letter from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing not only outlines the proposed changes, but also highlights the collaboration between other ministries, which will be essential in supporting municipalities like Thames Centre if they are negatively impacted by these changes. I'll say, i.e. in infrastructure. One comment I have that perhaps staff can do a follow-up on is, do we anticipate getting an update regarding the Middlesex Connect bus funding? As I believe their current funding was set to expire in 2025. So that can be reported back at a later date, but I just wanted to ask that regarding, since the Ministry of Transportation and Connectivity is mentioned in the letter. Thanks.
And in answer to that, I believe that report will be coming to County Council.
Yes, it will, and then we can report back. to the
Yeah.
council.
Okay. And Councillor Lockie, 11.7.
Yeah, through your worship, I echo the concerns of the town of Shelburne with respect to Bill 5, especially with my involvement with the Environmental Advisory Committee. You know, this bill, it's weaker and it gives a lot more control to the politicians and left to the people that understand the science of the environment. So I'm really concerned that they're, you know, taking the obligation out for environmental assessments. And if council supports, I would also like to have a letter in support of, you know, our showing concern for Bill 5.
Thank you. Support for council on this matter?
Is that, are you moving that?
Yes, I'm moving this, but before moving it, I want to see if the rest of council agrees with my concern.
Any
because it has
comments
been
you'd like to
unanimous.
make?
Yeah, I mean, I echo my comments as well, and I'm happy to second that motion.
Any other comments from council? I too have major concerns with this particular one. So you're moving that, are you, Deputy? Oh, you're moving it and Deputy Mayor is okay, thank you. We'll ask the clerk to do that. Yes, we're going to vote on it. Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder, and all in favor? Any opposed? None? Okay, that carries then, thank you. So. Yes, so at this time then, can I have a mover and a seconder to approve the rest of the receive the rest of the motion? Okay, you're moving seconder, Councillor Lockie. All in favor? Thank you. Great. Item number 12, reports of committees. Items listed under the reports of committees are approved by council in one motion. Council members may request that one or more items be separated for further action. So report of agenda items 12.1 through 12.5 be approved as presented, noting the conflict that the deputy mayor has committed to on item number 12.1. All right, moved by something you would like to say? Certainly, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to bring everyone's attention to item 12.1, Thames Center Special Events Committee. It's stated here in Part B, the date and time for Cornfest 2025 being September 6th from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And then it also indicates in 12A our Canada Day festivities. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to share a bit of details ahead of the poster going out imminently. So the celebrations for Canada Day this year will be happening in the Dorchester Community Park, June 30th from 5 until 11 p.m. with 7:30 to 11 being live music. And dusk will host the fireworks from our Lions Club. July 1st festivities will be taking place throughout the morning. Various activities you'll see on the poster. Opening ceremonies will be taking place at 12 noon and will be concluding the day at 4 p.m.
Thank you. Anything else? Councillor Heeman?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just in the spirit of giving a motivation behind reports that come to council with requests for action, I wanted to motivate two items from 12.5, the Economic Development Advisory Committee. I think point C indicates the request for application and membership into SCORE, the South Central Ontario Regional Economic Development Corporation, and that the admission fees be taken from the memberships budget for 2025. And I think point E, where I would like to congratulate the mayor potentially on undertaking a new community consultation with the mayor's economic roundtable. And so I think this is a good way to get feedback for a number of items that we are discussing at the committee, in addition to some of the difficulties we have with the tariffs south of the border, and as well as a networking opportunity. So I'd like to encourage the approval of these items, and I would like to preemptively congratulate the mayor on this initiative.
Thank you, Councillor Heeman. So, a mover and a seconder, unless there are any other comments or questions. Okay, moved by Councillor Heeman and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? Any opposed? Declare conflict. I'm sorry, right, you did. No, I'm probably testing myself tonight. I'm gonna say, okay, all in favor? Yep, we did that. Oh, it's one of those nights, I think. Okay. Now, okay. Any unfinished business? And the notices of motion. Councillor Crockett.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to preface this motion by echoing Mayor McMillan's sentiments from the start of tonight's meeting and extending our condolences to the family and friends affected by the tragic events of Friday night. Considerable thought has been given to this motion as we await the results of the investigation. but I believe it's important that we take the steps within our authority to prevent future incidents on our rural roads. So with that, I would like to put forward a joint notice of motion from myself and Councillor Heeman. And I'll read it aloud now. Whereas a tragic accident occurred on Friday evening in Thames Centre at the intersection of Thorndale Road and Cobble Hills Road. And whereas community safety is of the utmost importance, and exploring proactive measures to enhance road safety is a necessary step in preventing future incidents. Now, therefore, it be resolved that Council respectfully requests that the counties of Middlesex and Oxford consider conducting a comprehensive traffic and roadway study of the intersection following the conclusion of the ongoing OPP investigation. And be it further resolved that this request remain open to amendment pending the findings of the OPP investigation.
Thank you, Councillor Crockett. So at this point, the motion may be dealt with and voted on if a vote of consideration is made and supported by 2/3 of council. So that the motion presented jointly by Councillors Crockett and Heeman at the council meeting on May 26, 2025 be considered. In favor? Okay. Putting it forward. Okay, seconder. Councillor Heeman, all in favor? Okay, and none opposed, so that motion carries. Okay, so is there any discussion on this motion?
I don't have anything to add at this time.
Anyone else? Councillor Heeman?
I'd just like to thank Councillor Crockett for her work on this, and I think anything we can do to better the circumstances in future is worth undertaking. And again, thanks to our first responders.
Okay. So with that being said, then a motion for receipt of Chairman?
The motion's on the floor, so we would need a mover and a seconder to move the motion put forward by Councillor Crockett and Councillor Heeman.
I will move the motion.
Sorry, I don't have my mic. That a mover and a seconder that bylaws 40-2025 through 43-2025 be read a first, second, and third and final time and be adopted. And that's right there on your agenda. A mover and seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Right, finally to the confirmatory bylaw. No, I'm sorry, I missed that one here. The meeting schedule. The next meeting is Monday, June the 9th, 2025 at 5 p.m. here in the chambers, followed by Monday, June 23rd, 2025 at 5 p.m. Mover and a seconder for adjournment. Moved by Councillor Lockie and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? Thank you all. So the meeting adjourns at 6:22 p.m. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen.